Hello, this is the voice of Stewart Pearce, and welcome to my series of deep dialogues. These are vital conversations I engage in with global soul stewards from all over the planet, providing us with vital understandings about how we can create a new hierarchy of values to help us evolve into a brave new world. I hope you enjoy, and thanks for listening.
Hello, hello, hello. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the most delicious lady with us this evening, Helena Reilly. I'm welcoming her back onto Deep Dialogues. This is the second Deep Dialogues, but actually we've also, in the intervening time, we've also had a conversation on your network. Do you remember for
Yeah.
that summit that you did, which seemed some time ago? And Helen is absolutely extraordinary, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome to you. Namaste, namaste, namaste to all of us. Lois, lovely to see you, my darling. Stephen, Stuart, somebody, and certainly, by the way, Helena, if you want to, this is in the comment box, which is on the right of your screen. You have private chat and comments. If you want to click on comments, you can see. But don't worry, because I'll be processing what everybody's tuning into. So at some point, we'll ask questions. Yes. Do you have any questions? Not quite now, but so let me tell you who. Oh, Laura, hello, my darling. Let me tell you who Helena is, because she comes with an extraordinary bio. So Helena Reilly is a renowned therapist, author, and co-founder of quantum sound therapy and quantum miracle iQube, which she invented with her late partner, Robert Lloy. Is Lloy correct?
It is correct.
Who unfortunately passed last year. So we send lots of love and light to him. Her pioneering work in the field of sound frequency and immersive quantum scalar energy vortex technology has led to lasting transformations and reduced stress for thousands of people globally. Helena's book is an Amazon #1 best-selling book, the title being Quantum Sound Miracle IQ. And it has been recognized as one of the top books in the mind, body, health and wellness and complementary medicinal categories, highlighting the many benefits of this miraculous technology. Helena herself has a degree in psychological treatment from the University of Chicago and was awarded the bestseller honor by Who's Who of Distinguished Alumni in 2015. Helena, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's absolutely wonderful. Wonderful. You and how many other spirits are with you?
At this moment in time, we were just joined, actually, and you can feel the frequency raising, actually,
Absolutely.
rising.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe some thousands have just joined in on the Ethereum. But as you know, Stuart, this is Earth, as insane as it is, or as complicated, is the one place for satsang, for the non-physicals. So when we hold these dialogues, it's the physicals and the non-physicals listening for education.
Yeah. On Saturday evening, I was gifted by lots and lots and lots of people coming online to join me in meditation peace for 33 minutes of sonic meditation, prayers, and inspirational what's-its. And it was absolutely extraordinary because although we had human beings with us from all over the world just for the 33 minutes, afterwards I came down from this extraordinary process and the angels of Atlantis said, do you realize that we had corralled over 150,000 ascended beings?
Oh, that's close to my heart. And they're with us. We're not
They
alone.
They are with us. We are never alone. So I hope you're tuning in, everybody, to We Are Not Alone, even though we don't necessarily see you and you can see us. So cracking the quantum code.
I have
How
a lot
does that fit to you?
So I have a lot to say about this right now, which is that in the next time frame that we are going into. We've actually, my intuition is that we have arrived at part of New Earth. The frequencies are coming in. They need to be introduced in order to change the consciousness. And I was listening to you on the extraordinary conversation that you're having on a YouTube channel, that the angels actually communicate with frequency, with the human body. And our work has been about developing a library of frequencies to uplift humanity, but also to solve the emotional, psychological, and spiritual problems. Like, in other words, to cut to the chase. So when you use frequency to change consciousness, it's extremely precise, because the task that humanity is responsible for right now is to shift from fight, flight, freeze, from fear, contraction, into love or expansion. Frequency can decode that fear, because what's happening is that they're triggering fear using media on Earth, multiple media sources, of course. You have to learn to flip the switch here. When you see that information and you notice you're triggered, you can use frequency in a matter of seconds to shift out of fight, flight, freeze, and cortisol reactivity. And this is the message that I'm receiving, that is the essence of our mission at this time. Yourself and myself included, Stewart. And also the frequencies are coming through the presence, our presence, and through our voices. We transmit frequency. But it is because there's no belief behind a frequency. It's purely mathematical or algorithmic. Therefore, the defense mechanisms of the ego do not react. So let's say Stewart and I say something that really doesn't feel right to you, or it wasn't the belief system that you learned, in school. So, and it triggers a disbelief. So you withdraw, then you contract, then you stop listening. But when you hear a frequency, if it's even somewhat pleasant, it can crack the code, and your mind is not going to jump in and contradict the frequency, because it has no earth meaning to it. It's neutral. That's why it's so important now.
This is fascinating. Thank you so much, because you're speaking through the wonderful articulation of your scientific understandings, which is a world, of course, as you know, that I march through with a certain amount of courage, but isn't necessarily, although I give the impression that I'm an establishment figure, I'm actually a raving mystic, and always have been. I've just learned how to speak a 3D language. So what you've just described is all of the matter, nay, not matter, all of the information on a metaphoric level that the angels gave me as I meditated for an hour before coming to meet the hundreds of people that were with me in the meditation piece on Saturday evening. That if we can actually rearrange opinionation, move away from the stress factor of producing so much cortisol and noradrenaline in our bodies, the fight-flight instinct, we're moving onto a completely different level of experience, where the light frequencies are so precise that literally we will be able to surf on those light frequencies in the matter of our own form, in our human bodies. And as a result of that, we will not engage in any of the dialectic that is leading us towards division.
Very important.
And so saying, what we're doing is we're preparing a new level of neurology within your bodies. And as a result of that, you will give birth to a new level of ideology. And as a result of that, automatically, a new sociology will be created. That was the way they were defining it.
Beautifully said, very well said. With that, a new state of being is established.
Yeah.
Once you feel that state of consciousness, that holism, that interconnection that's essential in the quantum field, you want to return to it. It's like going to the most beautiful island on planet Earth and then having to leave. You're going to want to return. Therefore, the practice becomes easier. So it doesn't require as much discipline to listen to frequencies as, for example, silent meditation. Not everyone can do that. Now, I also do want to say that the frequencies also open up the energy field, so that one of the problems that we're encountering is that the trust levels are decreasing on Earth at an exponential level. And this is when they hear us, people do not necessarily believe us at this point, because if they've been hearing so much non-truth. So given that humanity's living in it's estimated right now, 70% of our existence is in the hormones of stress in the modern world. So this recalibration has to be created in a neutral capacity, so that people don't start fighting with it. And there's the beauty of sound and quantum scalar technology. We don't know how to resist it.
So this because we've in a trice, seemingly, we've set up this wonderful thesis of what our potential is at this time to move through a very powerful portal, which is interesting, isn't it? Astrologically speaking, we know that we are being led, as it were, by acute cosmology to a new doorway. And in all of the Ayurvedic processes, there is the acknowledgement of the fact that we're reaching the end of the Kali Yuga period. So we're moving towards this portal. We are standing in this portal, in fact, so that we can move through and experience a totally new neurology. And therefore, the old disturbing patterns are simply not there. However, I take the point that you've made that discipline is not necessary, but I love devotion. I feel devotion is necessary.
Yes.
That love, that joy, that upliftment, that quality of compassion that we know we always receive through the downloads of grace from the ascended ones and from the angels, from the great teachers that are unseen, as well as those that are grounding this information on our planet. So being in this portal, what I'd love to know from your perspective is what you've discovered in your quantum theory process and with the scalar technology, what you're taking people through to acquire this new level of neurological state, so behaviors change.
Well, first of all, we do have voice analysis software. We call it voice code sound therapy. And what that is good for is depicting on a frequency level the emotional blocks at a very deep level and undoing these over time. So that's the other aspect of frequency. And there's one caveat. Discipline is involved, but to listen to frequencies doesn't involve discipline. Where we need to be disciplined is paying attention to the contents of our subconscious, which is 1,000,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind. And we usually by about 8 or 9 in the morning, our subconscious has taken over if you get up fairly early. So the discipline is about noticing your feeling state and your emotional state and how things are impacting you, but also what thoughts are surfacing. And the way that this work has evolved is that over time, we have developed technologies that run immersively 24/7, which is why we got the attention of the huge leaders in personal development like Tony Robbins, and because what happens over time, we are programmed for the first 7 years of our life, 24/7. We actually hit the record button, and we absorb the entire content of our universe, both in the womb and in the home, wherever we were born. So the reason many of the modalities have limitations is that the subconscious is a million times more powerful. It's running 95% of your life. You don't really know what's in it because it's also numerous past lives that can come in at any time. The key with the sound immersion and the quantum brainwave harmonization is that it's immersive also. It can run 24/7 also. And so over time, it's a profound wash of your energy field, because as Muktananda used to say, when you're born, you bring a cup, or he used to say a brown paper bag. Well, this is a good one, actually. You bring a cup named Helena, and you drink out of the contents of that cup. So whatever Helena's done, she's either going to be balancing, paying for. So this is the truth, that that the karma gets washed away over time with sound frequencies, because you're offering coherent frequencies that are of a higher vibration. So as a mystic, we understand that, because although I talk a little science, and I am I was a psychotherapist, I am really from the mystical tradition. That has been the focus.
Well, you're a profound intuitive, but with a highly curious mind, right?
You're very curious.
You found many ways of being able to discern and thence articulate the possibility of what I feel you're truly seeing, which is a world of complete harmony and balance. That's why sound comes to you so acutely. Could you just identify for us, because you mentioned Muktananda, could you just identify who that being is? Because there may be people in our group this evening, or whenever you're listening, dear people. If you could, hello, whatever that keyboard is. Hello, Podstawi. Could you just tell us who Muktananda was or is?
Yes, Muktananda founded the Siddha Foundation in the 1970s. He's a recognized Indian saint and considered a Satguru, which is a world guru. So he had millions of students and influenced, Paul McCartney went to Babaji in the Himalayas, but Muktananda had a lot of influence in the world, but he was basically teaching the yoga of meditation and mysticism and service. And I became involved in around 1981 with that organization and acted as a therapist. That's why I'm doing sound medicine now, because I saw that though we were evolving, I call them the key karmic blocks, were not getting resolved. So I was seeing in the families, they might have been really wearing white and be meditating and, lovely beings, but inside, sometimes there was a lot of conflict in the family, high levels of self-depreciation. So it is that it's almost that we have to catch up with our own divinity now. That we are, and Muktananda was a teacher. Basically, he taught God dwells within you as you. That was it. And Om Namah Shivaya. Those were his two key teachings.
Yeah.
And he never wanted to be a guru, though. So he was an interesting teacher, very interesting teacher. And he did pass on this wisdom that in order to be with a certain teacher, you would have spent 7 lifetimes with them. So if you're wondering why you might not have met him in this lifetime, that might be the reason. So
yeah. In the early 70s, I was chosen by Sai Baba. And so to spend time with Baba.
Yes.
Many stories about Baba. And he wanted me to become a brahmachari, but I said, well, what does it mean? And then he was told me what it meant, and I said, no, I don't think so. When I sort of partly didn't reject, but I just simply said, Baba, I feel that I've done this before. I feel I've done this in another life, and I feel in this life I need to be of the world, not of the world. And he said, good boy, good boy.
Good boy.
Good boy. Talk Satyananda and said he was a great saint that would bring great healing. And of course, you know, I wanted you to give that wonderful definition for the people who are here in
Yeah.
case they didn't. Welcome, everybody. Lots of other people tuning in.
Yes,
Really context. And you brought up something very interesting about the discipline, the devotion, the veneration of the Eastern disciplines, moving deep into the subcontinent, where there is a level of devotional pathway that is there from the moment the child is born all the way through until they either assume that devotional path all the way through their lives or they break away and then engage in their own karmic journeys. And yet what I've discovered, and it's true I haven't been to India for some time, but I noticed that in temple conduct, the level of devotional upliftment was so exquisite that everybody moved into the fifth dimension.
Oh, yes. And
But then when we came out of temple, and of course, there was a re-engagement with the behavioral mores of that society, which I noticed was very patriarchal, and many of the women were being constantly subjugated. And then, of course, the big stories start about manipulation and coercion and violation and so forth and so forth, which still, you know, which is what is being evoked at this time for healing. So we're back into the thread of how we can really go deep into the subatomic awareness of our behavioral mechanisms. So you've mentioned scalar technology, and you've mentioned this extraordinary field that you're operating with people or opening up for people. Are there suggestions in this moment that you can make to the dear people who are tuning in?
Yes, definitely.
Move more into your field, apart from go to Helena's website, which we'll talk about, you know, in a moment or two.
Oh, yes. Well, we are launching. So I've recently was guided to create the Quantum Shift Academy as well. So, and we are launching another event on Thursday that will be on the website. But the work with the scalar technology, here's the key that we need to grasp. Scalar waves are the most dominant waveform on planet Earth, period. That's science, right? And quantum physics, the Nobel Prize was awarded for quantum entanglement in 2022, so it's no longer woo-woo science. Let's get that on the table. This is real science. In order to penetrate the karmic wounding that humanity has received and repeated for hundreds of thousands of years, you need your dominant waveform. You need scalar, you need sound frequencies of high accuracy that are being amplified by scalar waves. Why? Because that can penetrate the blood-brain barrier and the consciousness, because humanity's been holding onto these patterns and we've been hardwired to fear change. And yet, change is all there is here. And also being in the present moment is all there is here. So with our technology, one of the things that I would say is that it brings you into the present moment because it's clearing your field and the field. And with the extraordinary inventions of like 5G, that's also filling the field. So we need to counteract. We actually need to dominate. We actually need to override some of that discordance at this time so that we remain sovereign. And that one of the things that I am teaching right now is that sometimes it's catching people because 5G can create confusion that's why I'm focusing on brainwave harmonization. 5G can disharmonize the brainwave patterns. So we need to be aware of that because sometimes our children are behaving in strange ways, the other humans in our lives, and you have to be aware that there are interference patterns being created by some of the EMFs, by the technologies that have been invented. And in many ways, our technology is here to create that vortex that cancels it. So if even for 5 minutes in that day when you're sitting in your house or 24 hours, you actually feel that is actually imprinted to lift you up. And we have to be aware now that it's going to involve this type of conscious awareness. It's like a subtle energy war that's going on.
It's absolutely stunning, because I mean, this, for me, this is an immense joy, because I've been channeling a tremendous amount of the angels' intelligence over the last 7 weeks. Again, the cycle of 7, you know, the portal between the seen and the unseen. And so much of what you're describing, I've tried speaking of to 1 or 2 chosen ones around me, my dear friends, and they haven't quite been able to grasp what I've been talking about. And here you are speaking of it.
Exactly.
Because for me, the dominant harmonization process is if we can find our chord, if we can find our note, if we can find our frequency in our voices, that we have a physiological possibility of meeting the grander dominant note that you're speaking of, that can be produced by scalar technology in its purity. Because obviously wherever we are, because nothing is single, everything is plural, we're going to have this wonderful harmonization, but at the same time, there are always going to be these irruptations of thought coming up from the unconscious. Are you sure that this is the right thing to do? You know, et cetera, et cetera.
My mother said, my teacher said, yes, this is the task of now, is to get in touch with you, to find you again.
Yes.
Because here's the other thing that is a big part of the teaching for me right now. We have been taught to not be ourselves. We are not who we are. Most are not, like, we're doing what we came here to do. Most got lost. And we all have that risk. I could get lost tomorrow. So it's a daily process. Because we're taught to be externally referential, we look for our happiness outside. We look for approval outside. We look for well-being outside. We look for ourselves outside. There's the problem. You need to look for yourself here. You're here. You came here for a reason. You got a passport to Earth. You have a purpose. It's your job to figure it out. But with the chaos and the way that we've been training humans, they got disconnected. And the disconnection is the problem right now. We are disconnected from our divinity. And yes, there is the notes in our voice, first of all, do reflect our past, present, and future. And this is where you and I connect, that they also, when we actually harmonize the octaves in our voice, we are a musical scale. We are music. We're a walking symphony, really. And when we balance that symphony, you actually can create it, and you can create who you are. You've got to write your own music, man. It's got to be. You have to find your music and write it. And you've got to get free from all these expectations. Just try to keep it legal. But the point now is that this disconnection process has become so profound that people are subscribing to false, a lot of things that aren't real.
Yeah.
Because this is real. Your heart is real.
Yeah. And love is real.
Love is real.
And love lasts forever, whereas the trauma, the pain, is actually indiscriminate. It only comes and goes. Ladies and gentlemen, are you hearing all of this?
We are
we tune in to very, very similar frequencies, and all of our quantum particles become involved in entrainment with one another. Are you understanding what we're talking about? Are there any questions that you would like to ask? Dearest Helena, please may I ask for your interpretation of quantum code? Says, where was that? Who was that? Laura.
Okay. Oh, yes. Laura's been quite active. Yes. In fact, she switched off. Good job, Laura. Yes. So cracking the quantum code is the language that I am using to explain that humanity's in this conundrum at the moment. So we are actually cracking the karmic code of humanity, which has been based on a profound series of distortions. And to crack the quantum code is to elevate us so that we can go into truth again. So the question you need to ask is, will you create a linear experience in your life or open to the possibilities of a quantum shift? Now, here's what I feel about the quantum code. The quantum code, humanity made a profound mistake after Atlantis, which is that we applied Newtonian physics to Earth, whereas we are on a water and frequency planet. We're not really on a solid material planet. And then we taught people to hardwire. We actually believed that neuroplasticity, and Freud sort of ended at the age of 6. So if neuroplasticity, and that is such a byproduct of the Newtonian physics. So we create this entire planet and we're playing on it in the wrong science, the wrong modality. So it's the hardwired science, the physical science. And what we need is the science of frequency and water. Now, cracking the quantum field is only frequency. It also carries past, present, future. This is why our voices are so important, because as a vibrating organism. So think of this body as resonance or vibration. I am sharing with you a vibration, which is Helena. This is Helena's vibration. Take it or leave it. When we crack the quantum code, what we've done is we've discarded the parts of Helena that were programmed in a way that it is not her essence. It is not her truth. It is not love. Usually it's fear-based and societally programmed. So when we crack the quantum code, we remove the past traumas, fears, alliances that are not constructive, and it allows us to connect to the future self by entering the quantum field. Now, your quantum self knows what you're here for. You only need to connect. I was in Ganeshpuri for a number of years. I acted as a therapist. And then when I came out into the real world, it only takes a matter of seconds. Once you've connected to the quantum field, you'll learn your purpose. I found out instantly. Yeah. I should have seen the handwriting on the wall. I was a musician, and that my purpose was in sound and frequency and toning. So but when you crack the quantum code, it's like opening yourself to who you truly are. So that all of you listening, you need to be who you are. You need to become in your truth. And you need to sit with yourself just a little bit to find that out. And that's how we do it. And we are cracking the quantum code using the technologies of frequency that have been in development over 40 years that are now amplified by scalar coils or Tesla coils or quantum coils, because sound heals, it harmonizes, elevates, aligns, and brings you to love. And that's scalar optimized sound. So it's a formula to crack open the heart of humanity. It's that simple. Once the heart's opened, it signals the brain. You move out of the fear. You're here to be you. You're here to be you, not who they told you to be. Become yourself. Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, hallelujah, says Laura. Yes, clear, clearing, clear. Absolutely, absolutely. And so in these moments, as you are caught by the beautiful anthem that Helena is giving, in all of her wonder, in all of her magic, in all of her intelligence, because she is a thing of great beauty to look at. So we see this wonderful light pouring from her. Allow her energy to lift you up. So we glory in her presence and see what she has achieved because she has unlocked and cracked the code. I think we've in that moment I lose her. Is it me who suddenly ceased, or is it Helena that's suddenly ceased? Maybe it's me. Ryan, do you know what's going on? Hello, 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 hello. Is it Helena who's froze or me? That's what I'm asking. Helena has frozen. Okay, so I'm still here. I don't know if I can actually find it. I was working on something this morning for the shift. She's probably going to close down and come back in. The shift network, because I'm doing a course at the moment, which is all about, ladies and gentlemen, which is all about discovering your sacred magnetic voice. So it's an extension of the work that I've been doing in a very secular context of creating the Magnetic Voice Academy, which is all about finding one's note. But I found this extraordinary. Do I have it here? I bet I don't, because it's been plaguing me all the way through our conversation, Helena and I. And I wanted to quote it. No, it's not here. It's a quote by Einstein, where he actually, I don't know, Ryan, I don't know if you could actually go onto Your Sacred Magnetic Voice of Shift. And I made a post and I don't know if you can copy it. I don't know if you have access to that, and put it into the chat box, the comment box. That would be absolutely wonderful. Okay, so she's having a bit of time. Her line must have gone down. Helena's just moved into a new house, which she doesn't know whether she's going to stay there. Thanks, Ryan. But I think she had a little bit of difficulty with the electrical processes. That's what's actually going on. So where are we? Any questions for me, ladies and gentlemen? You can't resolve something with same thought that created it. Absolutely. So we have to change the thinking, don't we? And this is what meditation peace was all about. So what is this? Aspect of noise that comes from without, then will the voice of God speak to our... So we only have... Oh, I see. The way in which I'm looking... Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can see it. The way in which a human being can find their place in the world is to tune their vocal instrument to the keynote or chord to which they belong. So we're talking about an optimum pitch. It's exactly what Helena's talking about, do you see, in relation to the way that she has, through with her partner, who alas passed last year, created this scalar technology, because it becomes a fundamental note which is so pure in frequency that all lower vibrations are immediately delineated and move away. And so this is what we're talking about here. You can see it yourself. When we go into this chamber of really discovering that our vocal instrument has a keynote or a chord, which is our I am presence, then we shut the door to every aspect of noise. Notice the difference between noise and sound that comes from without. Then will the voice of God speak to our soul. So we all know what our purpose is. This is what Helena was just describing about her own unique experience. And we will know the keynote of our very existence. Isn't that amazing? Your voice is calming and seductive. Oh, thank you so much. Well, it is a professional voice that's been worked on for 50 years. That's why they call me the master of voice, because I've been responsible for teaching voice, do you see, mostly to artists, to actors, and specializing in classical voice, specializing in Shakespeare, which is where I get the title from, because I was master of voice of Shakespeare's Globe for 15 years. Before hearing that I needed to resign and open my wings and come out of the spiritual closet. That's all 15 years ago. So you see me here in a different incarnation. Any questions? it is also about tuning to the part of the earth. Okay, that doesn't necessarily make sense. Could you perhaps, I can extrapolate on that, but I need to know what you're thinking, whatever your name is. Pod, star, we, gree, na, whatever. This is an unusual language, my darling. So tuning to the part of the earth. Well, we know that when we tune into the great earth nodes of terra firma, of the Gaia, we are able to feel similarly what unique frequencies are being released by Mother Earth. Obviously, she has her own note. And if anybody's interested after this, I'm hoping that Helen is going to regain access to me. That if you go onto YouTube and just simply type in the sound of the planet Earth, you will hear a frequency. You can do the same thing for Saturn, Venus, Mars, Alpha Centauri, etc., etc. So through NASA, we have recordings of the note of each planet. They're absolutely extraordinary because as soon as you tune into the note, you realize that you're dealing with otherworldliness, do you see? Which is 432 hertz, right? Which is the note of planet Earth. And then there's a certain amount of controversy over that because also there's an intriguing identification. I'm numerically dyslexic, so numbers tend to dance in my consciousness. But I was talking with my soul brother, Jonathan Goldman, who's president of the Sound Healers Association in the States. And he and I were sharing that we become very fixed with trying to find particular frequencies and that we become caught up in the math rather than actually feeling what the frequency does within our bodies. However, if you are on an earth node, you can actually really feel the interconnectivity between your own body because after all, you're a listening post in an ocean of sound. And as a result of that, you can actually find what you're here to do, which is what Helena was talking about in terms of finding your sovereignty, in terms of finding the I am presence, which again is a divine code that we were given millennia ago to help us rediscover our divine blueprint, which is the note that we're talking about. You notice that people in different parts of the earth have the same pitch. So you mean the Chinese have their pitch collectively, the Tamil people in the far south of India have their pitch, the American pitch, are you, Podstawi? Are you in the United States of America? There is a pitch there. And that pitch is really here, right here, okay? It's required by lifting the back of the tongue and making this really nasal sound up here. Whereas when we move into this part of Europe, there is a different quality of energy, absolutely. And, wherever we go in the world, we can hear that although there is cultural delineation through language, English sounds one way, American English sounds another, the British English sounds one way, American English sounds another. But if you're in Italy, I don't know if there are any Italians or Spanish, Helena's back. Then you'll also hear different frequencies being used. Yay, you're back. I'm entertaining everybody as an extraordination of my own interpretation.
Oh, I was listening. Yes, it is interesting how different.
Original source. So silent. So right at the very, I think this is what you mean, Laura, right at the very core, what we're talking about are the variations of pitches or frequencies that we humans are able to attain. So, for example, we know that there is a currency which is being used in American English, which is different from British English, which is a much higher frequency from the quality of tonality that we hear here, which is also when we go to Italy, we hear another frequency. When we go to France, we go to another frequency. Chinese has blah, blah, blah. This is what we've been picking up. Laura, I think are you referring to silence is the very beginning? Is that what you mean? It's the original source. so silent is behind sorry from original source. So I'm interpreting what you've written. Anyway, are you okay, Helena?
Yes, yes, just a strange phenomenon.
Well, it's
The
interesting
internet dropped for a few seconds, and I had them. I had all
because
good.
our frequency lifted
I know we were.
and suddenly you were gone. That's very interesting.
I thought it was interesting too. We were talking about because this happens, and once when I asked my guides, when that happens, is that just it's just some electronic thing? And they said, or is it that there's resistance to what's being said? It's not, and they said it's totally the resistance in the collective consciousness. So when I understood that, then I understood we're going to have a lot of those occurrences because as we raise the consciousness. So, and here's the thing about frequency, because I do want to get this message.
Yeah.
That frequency changes us over time. It's and as you're speaking about the languages in different countries and the tonality and the frequencies, you see, we mold to that. We're very fluid beings. That's the paradox. We're actually designed to be very fluid. I can actually heal you, Stewart, through this screen. Because we're fluid, we're humans, we have abilities and powers. And what's really sad is that this has been stripped from us by the various disempowerments. And what's really awesome is that we're rising up into, but you can see that when we go high to the fifth dimension, often things happen. And as we rise, it's very interesting. We disappear, but then we can come back in. So take note of that. Nothing occurs accidentally.
Yeah. And that's what we're really learning now, isn't it? We're moving away from the romanticism of fifth dimensionality and the way that we moved away from that core ingredient of, I want to ascend in the late 70s, early 90s. Late 70s, early 80s. I was working a lot in New Mexico at that time, and particularly working with a Native American shaman who claimed me. And so I worked with him for 3 years. And he kept on saying to me, good, teach them how to descend. Because at that time, the story was that the Ashtar Command were coming in, and also the Andromedan Council were coming in, and the planet was about to rearrange itself from a geological point of view. And so the motherships were there, and they were going to teleport us up. And then when the planet had rearranged, we would come back down again. So a lot of people were freaking out.
Yes.
And he kept on saying, no, we are not going to. Go to him, pointing at me. He will teach you dissension. Not dissension from a political or from a sociological point of view, but to descend in terms of discovering the weight and the gravity of our beings. Beautiful Painted Harrow had this really, really resonant voice that literally moved all the way through his pelvis, because he noted that a lot of my chanting, it was interesting when I first met him. He said, tell me about your sound healing. And so I introduced him to sounds that I'd been taught him through Hermetic principles to awaken the earth, water, air, and fire chambers in the body. And when I did this, when I showed him, I demonstrated, he said, why you use these sounds? He was very fierce. And I said, because my teachers, my masters have taught me to do this. And he said, we have the same sounds. Now, this is a member of the Tewa tribe in Taos, New Mexico, who are settled. Their village, their pueblo, is settled in the foothills of Taos Mountain, which was stolen from them, from the whites, in 1865, I think, but then given back about 30 or 40 years ago. And it's a sacred mountain, and it has its own note, which those who are sensitive enough can hear it. So he said, my people have been using these sounds since ancient times. And his story was how the Atla moved away from the completion of Atlantis and arrived in this part of the continent of what we now call North America and moved through the southwest up into the mountains. And that's why the Tewa are settled.
Oh, very interesting. Because I lived in northern New Mexico. There's a high road between Santa Fe and Taos. And
yeah, absolutely.
right?
I would be driving up and down at least twice or thrice a week along the Rio Grande.
Along the Rio Grande, right? And that's a very powerful place, but there's been tremendous trauma in that state because of the way that the land was taken. And so much human suffering and so much division there, but such beauty and spirituality. That's where I actually cracked open, is in the mountains. I bought an Adobe. Actually, and it was during my University of Chicago days. I was married. We bought this Adobe. He was an anthropologist, and that was when I started experiencing who I am today. Yeah. Actually, because I'd come out of University of Chicago, so I was very mental. Yeah. But I would say that also, there's some very deep spiritual practices going on there, and the water is so powerful. Yeah. So that's a very profound.
I was wanting us to return to water because there is a New Mexican man who has been taught how to. I don't believe that distill water is the accurate word for the science that he's engaged in, but he's using minerals, so he's using crystals from one of the great mesa. And he has this extraordinary contraption where he's changing the frequency of water so that the water that if we drink that water is actually helping us to heal all of the internal processes that we've been describing as ancestral karma and behavioral traits that lead us into darkness. So I'll find his content details and send you the link afterwards.
Yes.
And for those who are, really interested, well, I'll link you into it.
Yes, and the key there is to change the actual geometry of the cellular structure of water. So we do that. Also, we have a structured water, hexagonal water. We were Masaru Emoto's soul water partners. We created the Water Free 75 healing centers. And what you're doing there is, it's not the source. This is really simple. It's the structure. Yeah. So when you can change, and finally people are realizing this isn't snake oil, that when you can change the structure to be hexagonal at the cell site, the Nobel Prize was awarded for the aquaporin, which is also hexagonal. So then again, you're cracking the cellular code when you use hexagonal water. So we actually imprint our frequencies into our structured formulas to sort of on a hydration level, bring high-level frequency information directly intercellularly to change consciousness.
What is so remarkable about the water molecule?
What is remarkable is the way it pairs, unpairs, pairs, unpairs, and it's very fluid, and we're living on a water planet, and yet we put all these very rigid structures onto this planet. But the pairing, that is more the truth, that fluidity. And I do want to say, Stewart, that when my internet went down, I discovered this over the week, that when there's destructive interference, because in quantum physics you want constructive interference. When there's destructive, you do a counterclockwise spin, it'll change the energy. So planet Earth's not ready for what you're saying. And then if you want to harmonize, yes. So just
a lot of the people who are tuning in will know that when I move us into meditation, I'm actually asking to entrain the masculine clockwise spin of the chakra with the counterclockwise feminine vector so that we can rearrange any of the negative programming that is deep within our chakra or within the endocrinological system, within the neurological system, within the parasympathetic system, etc., etc. Fascinating, absolutely
We've been
fascinating.
talking out of body then, because that's exactly.
My absolute, I'm championing the cause at the moment that feeling is the language of the soul. It's just that we've got lost because most of the time we're living in the pain body and we're experiencing feeling as a pain rather than as a joyous, blissful state. And of course, you've already addressed that we need to talk ourselves out of the pain body into the bliss body in a very realistic, not non-fantastical way. And this is a way of doing it. So that as we move into the frequency of feeling, that the water molecule is a unique electromagnetic transmitter for the feeling of the human corpus in relation to the divine frequencies.
It's very true. And the feelings, the reason the voice is so important is that it is conveying the feeling and the emotional trauma.
Yeah.
And then it's decoding that so that you can embody divinity. Because when you decode, and that's all we're doing when you understand exactly. When you understand this, it's very simple. We're decoding the history of human trauma. That's all we're doing. That's all people like Stewart, myself, and millions of us doing that. We're trying to say, decode this trauma so we can be who we are and enjoy our lives. Let's get on with this.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so glad that you could come on to Deep Dialogues, because I was thinking about you for next year, and then somebody fell out, and I thought, I'm going to ask Helena, and here you are. This is such, forgive me, everybody, because I'm having a partial spiritual orgasm, because all that you're saying is what I've been downloading, as I was saying, about 50 beats ago. And so it's just so, what is that expression? I'm super excited by the quality of sharing. This is really wonderful. I hope you're getting this, everybody. Diane, hello. What a joy. Such inspiration. Right on time. Thank you, dearest Helena. Oh, bless you, sweetie. Any questions that you want to ask Helena before, we unfortunately coming to the close of our dialogue? Any questions, everybody? Tamika, downloading the same. Oh, well done, sweetie.
Very good. That's all. Just listen, take action on your being, imprint your being with love, really. Raise, and you'll feel it. You'll feel when your frequency is blissful, happy. Return to that. Don't always dive into the negative. And the frequency decodes all of that trauma. And that's what we're here for at this point. We all passed through Atlantis. We've done that. We've been there, done that. We're now extracting some of these sciences. I will note, though, that I've been talking about this now for about 30 years. Now people are understanding it. Before, people, really, honestly, we're probably one of the few that they scratch their head. My mother used to say,
"Oh, I've been told shut up, leave the room." I've been shown. I've been out of board meetings. In artistic situations where you think people would actually understand a little about emotional intelligence. But anyway, that's another story. Bless them.
That's a whole other. But we appreciate the listeners because it shows also we're beginning to hear the truth, all of us. We're beginning, and the truth is in the sound wave. The sound current is what's going to heal Earth, ultimately, because it is a frequency planet. And as
all of these choice phrases, I'm going to have to go back and annotate all of these choice phrases. Could you just say that chord again? That was just so beautiful. It's going to heal planet Earth. It will be.
Oh, yes. No, that's a problem with the channel, is that the sound current will heal planet Earth because we are on the frequency planet. We apply the wrong science, the wrong medicines, and the wrong thought forms to make us less happy. So now if we apply frequency, can automatically bring you into ascendant bliss. You just have to stop resisting. And here's the key. The ego does not know how to resist frequency. That's why it works. It's the only reason. So I would suggest that we look at it as the rainbow bridge to transformation.
Yeah.
That sound frequencies actually create the rainbow bridge so that you can elegantly transform yourself. Every cell, every of your 300 trillion cells, and your 300 billion neurons that each make somewhere between 1,500 and 15,000 connections. So as you're listening, this is what you're doing. You're learning and creating new neuronal connections,
Yeah.
so that you can go back into the heart and become a divine human, a quantum creator, and live in the world of positive frequencies. So there it is.
This is wonderful. Everybody, I hope you're literally drinking this in. Can you just breathe in the same air that Helena is using at this moment? Even if you're thousands of miles away, really breathe in what she's saying. We will unfortunately have to reach a point of completion. This has been just glorious. You've shared such richness with us, but if you were to actually crystallize a particular thought feeling as a departure note, what would it be?
It's a good question. We are going to travel through times that are confusing on the screen of human earth. During this time, your discernment, your ability to see, your ability to understand the information will determine whether you rise or fall. The choice is yours. The fifth dimension, the new earth is here, the new frequencies are here, and even the new teachers are here. So learn to listen, and learn to discern. Learn that this illusion is being thrown at you with a very specific purpose, and that you can transcend and grow into your divinity and accomplish your purpose on earth. And we want to thank you and support you in that journey. And that's why we're here. Our mission is 100 million quantum harmony homes on planet Earth in the next 10 years. That's our mission.
Did you get that? Okay.
By next week, it'll be a billion. A billion quantum harmony.
Please, right. Can you put Helena's website up on the fascia, whatever we call it, the portal?
Yes, and if you harmonize 5 octaves of the human voice.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely. Which is, of course, what's so extraordinary. This is what thank you, darling. Thank you so much. Quantum therapy, soundtherapy.com. This is where you can find Helena. And if you are not subscribed, you have a newsletter list.
We have an email list. Yes, we have.
Do they find it in Quantum Sound Therapy?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a beautiful academy going live on Thursday. I don't think you're a
Get
guest.
onto Helena's subscriber list. And if you are not associated, subscribe to theangelsofatlantis.com, then get there immediately. And don't forget also that Ryan is my tech manager who's in the background, there we are, theangelsofatlantis.com, who he and I are creating these extraordinary downloads, these channeled teachings from the Angels of Atlantis. And so please go to the YouTube channel, which is Stewart Pearce, Master of Voice. Everybody, it's been wonderful having you with us. I know they're all licking Helena. Great love and thanks. Please. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week, where we have another extraordinary lady, global soul steward, who is, I won't tell you who it is, but she's absolutely remarkable. Helena, this has been an absolute joy. Thank you so much. Please don't leave, but we will need to complete because of our time.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Namaste, namaste, namaste.